They have a whole gymnasium with the people in there that are about to go home.
This call is from a correction facility and is subject to monitoring and recording.
You're listening to Voiced, Voices of Incarcerated Citizens Empowered, and I'm your host, Amani Sawari. Here we listen to the opinions, perspectives, and experiences of impacted citizens with the hope of reflecting and coming up with a better solution for us all. In today's episode, I'll be continuing my conversation with Ardell, where we talked about the environment inside of Michigan's only prison for women, including insufficient health care, officer relations, and the consequence of misconducts. We will continue to unpack these types of conditions, beginning with some of the seemingly meaningless reasons that someone can have their prison release postponed.
Sometimes it's a year, depends on how far back they see you in the parole board. They try to keep you there. So some people have their clothes to where they're fitted, right? What's wrong with wanting to look neat? They'll tell you, you took your clothes in, you can't have them. So if you go over here to this unit with them, they'll write you a 15-day ticket. And depending on how many you get, and they send them to the parole board will extend their stay. When you go into the chow hall, you might come out with some raw chicken. If you take that chicken back to your unit, do you know you're getting a theft ticket?
Oh my God.
Don't let Miss Nuwagu be working. Nuwagu was writing a theft ticket. If Miss Nuwagu is in your unit, this is an officer now. Miss Nuwagu will stand at the door. If she know they have chicken on the bone, she'll stand at the door for hours until child lines are down. Just to go through your pocket.
Wow.
Just to see if you have it on you. It's not just that, she'll go through your room when she's there. She'll, anything just to hand out a ticket. But everybody's stealing food out the child hall. But why wouldn't you? You can't do that, and you can't bring your food out the unit to take to the child hall. She would go through bottles of mayonnaise to find butter. Butter and mayonnaise are just about the same color.
Right.
It's just a little tin off. You are going to go through these people things to find this stuff, just to write them a theft ticket.
So you're not allowed to have butter?
Because it's child hall stuff.
Oh, so even condiments, you're not allowed?
I'm trying so hard not to laugh at this lady, but I'm not exaggerating. The look on your face,
I'm just in
man.
awe because it's hard for me to comprehend. It really just highlights how the prison system manufactures corruption.
If you get those type of tickets, you're always in trouble. You always on sanction. It's petty. It's not like I'm always knocking somebody's head off. Because when I do knock somebody's head off, oh, you the worst prisoner they got.
After discussing some of the devastatingly arbitrary reasons behind the mounting misconduct tickets that officers continually hand out, keeping people from returning to their lives, I asked about Ardell's experience of going before the parole board.
Okay, so you ever seen Alice in Wonderland? You know how the judge is the woman and she's all the way up here in the bleachers and you all the way down here in the pits? It looks like that because they on the teleprompter.
And you not even in the room with you?
No.
Wow.
It's so judgmental. It's so like, if you look the wrong way, my parole has been extended because I looked the wrong way. Because they assumed I had an attitude. Not because I had 6 months clear conduct, which meant I could go home.
Right.
Not because my stuff is assaultive. I haven't assaulted nobody in 6 months. But because I'm sitting here in front of you and I look like I have an attitude.
How is someone supposed to look while sitting in front
When
of
you badgering the hell out of them and picking on them and pulling that trauma, I don't know how they supposed to look. Nobody else thought or was thinking I was coming home with the year I had. She was like, well, if I let you go home, what are you going to do? And I'm like, never come back here? And she said, how would you make sure that happened? I said, have you seen where we live at compared to out there? You have to have absolutely nothing and believe in nothing to want to stay here.
Yeah.
This is not my life. And she was like, all right. And then a couple months passed. I started seeing the people, and it was like, you got your parole, but then I didn't get paperwork until a week before I left.
Living in volatile, unhealthy conditions With the intensity of counting the days towards parole in combination with the unreliability of staff, I wondered about how equipped the prison actually was for meaningful mental health care. How many counselors are there?
Maybe 13, if 13. I had the best one though.
Okay.
Miss Carducci literally dealt with all my bullshit. And she got the officers to help me work through it too though.
Really?
That's why I say people like her is needed.
Yeah.
I don't remember how she told me, but she was like, it takes a village to do better. You have moments where you do dumb stuff, you get in trouble, you get over it, you try to come home.
Yeah.
And then you have situations where an officer like Dunnigan, from the moment this lady met me, she has never liked me. I didn't do nothing to her. She just who she is as an individual. So she took it out on me when I was 18. They put me back in her unit years later. This lady tried everything in her power to get me to put my hands on her, to get me to do anything to just go back to say, she harasses me. She comes to my door. She will knock on my door. It's too dark in here. I'm on sanction.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
And what are sanctions at?
You can't come out your room. It's like timeout. That's gonna happen when you get a ticket. You can't come out your room. You gotta ask for water. Like you a kid.
Are folks getting bottled water or?
Who? They took the vending machines from them.
Oh wow.
They not getting nothing. They water is contaminated. They're drinking water with the mold in there, lead, and every other thing else. You locked me up, you turned me into a worrisome monster, and then when you start picking at me and I started to attack you, you said, stop. I came in at 18. You have rapists, pedophiles, murderers, serial killers, gang members. Around teenagers. Were you telling these teenagers to don't go there? Stay away from there.
Yeah.
They put them all in the same unit. They don't have the child program no more. I forgot what it was called. It was for 17 and under. They cut this like 2 years ago. So you have kids running around doing God knows what. These kids are having sex with these adults that are manipulating them. So you have trauma that's been buried as a child. I'm adopted. So being adopted, accepted by some of them in the family. And then you have your biological family who you've been told all these stories about how when you meet your real family, it's not what you expected. So you block all that stuff off, and then you got to deal with trauma on top of this trauma that you didn't even know was still there.
Yeah.
So you are a Tasmanian devil when you add prison on top of that.
Yeah.
And you're an angry child.
What are some immediate things that you think policymakers should focus on to improve the conditions?
When Lansing go in there, stop just walking around. Talk to the prisoners. You have some prisoners that'll talk to you, and then you have some that won't because they scared of the tickets.
Yeah.
But I feel like go into the rooms. They go on the base, and that's it. They turn around and they leave.
And how much time you think they spend there? An hour?
In the facility?
Yeah.
Hour. But as big as that facility is,
if you were looking at everything and talking to
you would spend a couple days in there.
Yeah.
It's mold in the sinks in the back in our rooms. You will wash that out the toilet about 3 times a week.
Really?
Yeah.
And what, like, is it like green mold? Is it black mold?
It's green mold. Sometimes it's black mold.
Just floating in the toilet?
Yeah.
Or attached to the bowl?
Yes.
So
in the toilet, the sink, in the shower. They only clean it when they have an audit coming through. And then everybody, for the life of me, I cannot understand why they break their necks to clean up this stuff when y'all are the one ingesting it.
Are they told to?
Yeah, they tell them to. Sometimes they threaten them with tickets. The chow hall where we have to go by and grab our food. There's gnats, flies, bees flying all over this food, touching this food. And I've worked there, so I've seen it all. You'll have a black shirt tell you, If I see a plate and I say it's dirty, don't say that too loud. Man, this food is not cooked all the way. Don't say that too loud.
So the black shirt, is that a corrections officer? Or
No, it's a MDOC hires them to serve our food.
are there a lot of malfunctions that happen at the facility?
Let me tell you, they have a trust fund for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
T. Moore is the person. This name, everybody remember T. Moore.
Mm-hmm.
She is so cheap. She is stealing everybody's money in some way, some form. She is so cheap. We were supposed to get so many rolls of tissue a month.
Mm-hmm.
She had at one point took those rolls of tissue to make it a bigger roll. We would get 2 of these rolls.
So the trust fund account, people don't know, it's like a collective bank account that is supposed to benefit the incarcerated population.
Yeah.
It's used at the discretion of the staff. So I know that some of the money that comes into the trust fund account comes from phone calls, but
It's $1 phone call.
okay.
All that money better be going in there. Back to the tissue.
Yeah.
She took this tissue. It was so thick that it stopped up the toilet systems. Every other week, they were coming out to fix the toilet systems in one of the units.
Every other week, oh my gosh,
Because she was so...
is frivolous.
We have the most money in our system than any other prison. You're stealing that money.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason that there should be so much money in a trust fund for prisoners.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you all have asked for that they said no, that could have been
Anything.
used on the trust fund?
They turned down everything.
And are there any like arts programs or
They have art programs, but that's once a year.
once a year?
You can have that more than once a year.
Yeah.
It's something positive. It's productive.
It can be extremely difficult to think about all of the many ways that the state of Michigan is failing women in Huron Valley. Many who started their sentence as traumatized teens that spent most of their lives battling the feeling of hopelessness, one the prison is now seemingly trying to instill permanently. Fortunately, Ardell has overcome this, not just in being released, but also in successfully navigating the unique trials of transitioning back into society, in the hopes of starting a youth development program targeted towards teens sentenced to spend time in prison themselves.
Being in prison has taught me 2 things. One is that slavery has not went nowhere. It's just in a different form. Slavery is just in the form of incarceration. So it's just like a plantation. The owner of the plantation is the officers. The workers of the field are the prisoners. Why would I want them to continue to keep me in bondage? In my Bible, it says something about being enslaved is a different form of being incarcerated. So say, you know how they used to chain them up and stuff?
Yeah.
The chains aren't around our necks no more. It's around our wrists. It's around our ankles. So now I cannot sit here and tell you that I'm ever going back to that prison. I'd rather die an ugly death. That is never something that I want to see again. And I want to start a program for kids where before they step foot into the other side of incarceration, they have to come to my facility. I'm still putting it all together. I think I'm going to have to go through the course to get it done, but I will.
Because Ardell's hope for the future outweighs the hurt of the past, thankfully, youth on a similar path will have the valuable opportunity to be equipped with the tools that will play a critical role on their rehabilitative journey. Now, while striving towards this goal, Ardell juggles the social and mental effects of returning home from prison.
I hate going into the store.
Tell us why.
The store, period, is like anxiety. Because I did so long in prison, I just turned 18, so it's different how you go from just learning how to shop for yourself, learning how to cook for yourself, to being incarcerated. And then you do everything by a microwave. When you come home,
People don't think
you
about
can't do it no more. So 13 years of me just learning how to do something. It's like learning how to read all over again. That's crazy.
Yeah. And the experience of now having to go into a store can be anxiety inducing.
Because you're not used to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's literally like, all right, here you go.
Go find what you need.
Yeah.
And every single item, there's like 10 different types of that item, if not more.
Yes, that on top of now you have the time to look through stuff. Now you can do it at your own pace.
Yeah.
You don't know which way to go.
It's a lot.
You don't know whether you should rush through it, be irritated that you're still in the store, or enjoy it. And that's called anxiety. I walk out the store 5 different times before I go in there and actually buy something. I learned I like to be in control. So I have a security job.
Okay, very nice.
Plus, I like the, not the drama, but the excitement of it.
Yeah. You don't mind chaos.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I like to make it mellow.
Knowing that it takes a village to do better, what type of village are Michigan taxpayers maintaining with MDOC? Could an environmentally toxic, mold-infested, degrading, and volatile place effectively rehabilitate women? Thankfully, there is a village on the outside of hundreds of families and advocates who gather year after year in crowds outside of Huron Valley to protest prison conditions there. So I just had to take this opportunity to know exactly how these types of actions have been perceived on the inside. Something I always wonder, and I get to ask, like when we're out there blowing the blowhorns and chanting, can we be heard?
Yeah, they hear you. I've heard you.
Yeah.
I think the spot you guys be like at the healthcare part.
Okay.
So you might be on one side of the facility, which where I heard them guys at was on the west side.
Okay.
So yeah, they'll shut down the prison though.
Because we've seen people, we'll see the orange hats come out,
Yep.
and it's in the distance, just
you gotta do it during the week though.
During the week is best.
During the week. On the weekends, there's nobody there.
Oh, that's a good
And I used to
tip.
wonder, like, why do they come on the weekends? There's no one here.
So they won't be able to
No.
see or hear anything like that, what's going
The
on.
people that need to be there won't be there except unless it's during the week. Do you know how many lawsuits MDOC has been in? Women's Huron Valley alone. They have a whole book of lawsuits.
Dozens and dozens, maybe even hundreds.
They give out millions of dollars like every other couple of years.
To settle lawsuits. No one's holding them accountable. The judicial system isn't working to actually provide justice to the people who are negatively impacted in these lawsuits.
Yeah.
And then the actual prison itself is in such abhorrent and dilapidated conditions that the women there not only aren't being rehabilitated, but they're suffering from illnesses and compounded trauma. Is this a system that could really work for anybody to actually come out and be a more productive citizen, as they say?
To some extent, yes.
You yourself would have to want to be a better person.
Yeah, you have to know, first of all, it's kind of like AA. In AA, your first step is to admit that you have a problem. When you come home from prison, you have to admit that you institutionalized. And
do better in spite of the trauma that the prison has inflicted upon you for years and years.
Because when I first came home, I wouldn't go outside at night. You're not supposed to go outside the unit when it's dark.
So that...
Unless you have a pass.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't go out unless someone called me. So I purposely, deliberately got a job at night.
Just to break out of that habit, because it becomes habitual.
Yeah.
If you spend over a decade somewhere doing the same thing, having the same routine, following the same rules, eating the same food, it can be very difficult to break out of that if you're not intentional about it.
Yeah.
If we continue to allow the system to have no resources, programs that pop up once a year, mold infestation, sickness without treatment, then we can't expect much more out of those people.
I say this. In prison, you learn what they allow you to learn. And anything you learn outside of that is because you are curious about it. So the only thing prison teach you how to be is more slick. Because they'll even tell you, like, we come here every week and you doing the same stuff. At least do it differently. So everybody thought I was crazy in prison. No, I was doing stuff to see if I can get away with it, for how long I could get away with it. So then when it stopped working for me, I started doing it in a different way.
And that's what prison teaches you to do.
To be sneaky.
That's how you can thrive in a place that isn't made for you to thrive.
Yeah, I'll have officers say, if you're going to do something, don't do it in my face. So you telling me to do it behind your back.
Exactly.
Okay, sure.
And what you said, I'm trying to repeat it. You said it so succinctly. Anything you learn in prison is because that's what they allowed you to learn.
Anything you learn in prison is what they allow you to learn. Anything you learn outside of that is because you are curious about it.
I love that. Well, let's end on that.
Yeah.
And thank you for being curious.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to Voiced, Voices of Incarcerated Citizens Empowered. This podcast was produced by SawariMedia, an advocacy organization, with the support of the Circle for Justice Innovations Fund. You can follow my work at SawariMe on Instagram and Threads. You can support this work on Patreon at patreon.com/Sawari. And you can always find more episodes on sawarime.org/voiced. Many thanks for Ardell for your willingness to be featured on this 2-part episode, and much gratitude to the listeners who made it this far. Musical scoring, recording, and editing is all done by your host, myself, Amani Sawari.